And you can see here we have a hot front, and then down here we've got the a cold front though. So if these two fronts collide, then we'll have an explosion. But tomorrow's weather will be most the same. 35 with clouds. Can't ever rain enough. That may have been 11 syllables. But who's to say, for I can't count. Let's just leave the pentameter to the pro. And with that, we'll send it back to the studio. And there, a special guest we shall find. Shakespeare! This poetry is killing my mind. So, when do we begin this interview? Momentarily. And now. I'm here with possibly the greatest English poet, rivaled only by Shakespeare himself. Mr. Milton, your poems, they are epics? They are epics? Yes, my poetry is indeed very good. No, sir, I meant you write epics, like the really long book-type poems, not that they were epic. Though, of course, I am a huge fan myself. Wait, isn't that, a bit ahead of your time anyways? I never shy from being ahead of time. Well, certainly, didn't most of your contemporaries focus on, using heroic couplets in their poetry? Of course, and I strayed from those common folk. Yes, we now call your style Miltonic blank verse, or verse that doesn't rhyme. It is very fascinating indeed. So, tell me a little about your epics. What is your insight for us on your most known and influential work, Paradise Lost? Read them and search the depths of imagery. Yes, the imagery. You are very famous for that. The way you describe things with such beauty and grace is inspiring. And what would you say about your perspective? You seem to have a knack for focusing on those who were defeated in the tale. Sir, you too would always be defeated if you were stuck with a miserable wife whom you could not divorce under the confines of the hypocritical state. I believe you are missing the point of iambic pentameter. At least all my lines have 10 syllables. I suppose it is the thought that counts. But what about your stately manner and elegant tone and precise diction? You seem to have lost your artisan's touch. I have been dead for over 300 years. Grant me some slack. Besides, Jeff's not creative. That is fair, I suppose. As I was reading your grand masterpiece, I had several images pop into my head and decided to paint them. Would you like to see? What kind of joke is that? I don't like jokes. I am so sorry, sir. I completely forgot about your blindness. I suppose I figured that since you are supposed to be dead anyways, you may as well be able to see. It's just as well. I painted it while blindfolded. It's very bad. Please proceed. This discussion tarries on. Speak the words you hint, say what must be said. Well, only if you insist, Mr. Milton. So, John Milton was a poet from the 1600s. He focused on biblically inspired poems and his take on Christian theology. He wrote epics, so very long poems, some of which over 250 pages, which were written in iambic pentameter, which is you have 10-syllable lines with the first part of the foot unstressed and then the second stressed. It's very difficult to do. He also went blind during the later end of his career. And so he dictated a lot of his poems, which is even more impressive considering he wasn't able to see or see what he wrote about or wrote. So it's just crazy to consider that he did this all without seeing it. Milton had a way of stressing the beauty of what he wrote about, drawing out the nature and the magnificence of everything. It was all in what's the word I'm looking for? It was all capturing, and it helped hold the reader through. It was just his style and stately tone, and just the way he wrote was very moving, I suppose, very magnificent, elegant. He's considered to be the second greatest English poet behind Shakespeare by some. And what he really added to poetry is his way of writing, his Miltonic blank verse, which is just unrhyming iambic pentameter. And he inspired a lot of poets and is kind of known for the inspiration of that type of poetry, just the way in which he describes things and images and pictures things and makes the reader guess and infer, and just it's a lot on the reader. It's suggestive, I suppose. And yeah, that's John Milton for you. Oh, pardon me, I seem to be a bit disheveled. Ah, this most certainly is not the paradise I wrote of. It is bright, very white light. What is these?